Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for coming to the 12th Meet the Masters with Scale Up Milwaukee. My name is Elmer Moore. I'm the Executive Director of Scale Up Milwaukee, an initiative of the Greater Milwaukee Committee. And we are so excited to present our featured guest today in an event put on in partnership with Marquette University. So the first person I'd really like for you to hear from is Sasha Parsons from Marquette.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sasha Parsons Waters. You gotta remember the Waters part now.
Sasha Parsons Waters.
I am here today from Marquette University, the Women's Innovation Network. And if you haven't heard of what's affectionately known as WIN yet, it's a new initiative at Marquette to support the advancement of women, people of color, the LGBTQ community, first-generation college students, all the underrepresented groups. And it's going to be part of a larger initiative. We're forming an Institute of Women's Leadership at Marquette. So WIN will be the programming arm to support the research that comes out of the new Institute of Women's Leadership. So if you would like to know more, please contact me. We're having our final event for Women's History Month. This was one. On Friday, we're showing On the Basis of Sex, the Ruth Bader Ginsburg movie on campus. So because I'm involved, there's dinner. And we're showing the movie, and then we're gonna have a discussion after the movie talking about women in the legal field, the past, the present, and what we would like to see in the future. So if you need some Friday night plans, I have flyers already checked in, so please join us. And all my social media is on the back of the flyer. So even if you're not coming to the movie, grab the flyer so you can connect with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Sasha made a great point, even as I was talking to our guest about this. If you have cell phones, mobile devices, and all the rest, please do silence them. I welcome you to take pictures and tweet and Facebook and Instagram and share this with the rest of the world. Please do tag us, hashtag ScaleUpMKE. I think you probably already know our handles, so we'd love to share what's happening with the world. This is a momentous and exciting occasion for so many reasons. It is Women's Month. It is coincidentally National Growth Year. Did you all know that? Mm-hmm. I just decided it. And this moment very much feels like a reunion. It feels like a family reunion. Today's guest happened to participate in the first iteration of Scale Up Milwaukee's sort of flagship program, formerly known as the Scalerator. And she's here today talking about the company that she runs that spun out of that participating company. And it's only been 5 years. And so there's a lot of story to tell. So while it's National Women's History Month, we're actually going to be talking about some very recent history, some very present, and some future. So please welcome with me into a conversation about growth, Amanda Baltz, CEO
Thank you.
of Spaulding Medical. Good morning.
Good morning, Elmer.
I'm excited for this.
I am too.
You know, I have the privileged position of talking to a lot of really extraordinary people. Frankly, this conversation is the one with a person with whom I have the best personal relationship. And so I get to have a conversation with a friend in front of a room full of friends.
That's awesome.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Good. So as you all know, this is meant to be a conversation. So while I'm sitting up here and I have a mic, it's really all of us talking to Amanda. And so please, if you have comments, questions, or anything else, I hope you will let us know so you can participate. So let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
How did we get here? You know, last time I checked, Milwaukee and the surrounding areas, we're not known for being super high tech. You know, that's not our reputation. We make things, we make big metal things. But you, Spaulding Medical, you innovated, you developed a handheld EKG. What gives you the audacity to do that?
So I think it all started, quite frankly, with Marquette Electronics was a cardiology device company that was an amazing company here in Milwaukee through the 80s and 90s. Our founder of Spaulding Clinical, my father, Randy Spaulding.
That guy?
That guy, he's my dad. He worked at Marquette and worked really in the height of all of Marquette's innovation in cardiac technology. And then they were bought by GE, and Randy moved on then he worked for GE for a little while, and then he moved on to Mortara Instruments, and Mortara Instruments was also taking on some innovation challenges in the clinical research space. And so Randy had the benefit of traveling the world really and looking at the state of cardiac technology in clinical research, and noticed that there were just these huge discrepancies, these huge gaps in terms of where technology is at and where it needed to be in clinical research. So back in 2005, 2006 timeframe, there were drugs like Vioxx and Fen-Phen, Avandia that were killing people due to sudden cardiac death. Vioxx was an arthritis drug, but people were dying of sudden cardiac death. If you take a cream, if you take a pill, anything that comes through the bloodstream is going to pass the heart, and then therefore can put you at risk for sudden cardiac death. So Randy's vision was really to create improved cardiac technology for drug safety or for drug testing. And that led to us opening Spaulding Clinical Research in 2008, 2009 timeframe. And we went to market with this big announcement, this big idea that we are going to right the wrongs of cardiac safety and drug safety and drug testing, and that through our work we were going to create a world of safer drugs. And it resonated with the market. And a lot of our customers really started seeing us as being an innovator in the space of cardiac and technology. Also at the time, a lot of drug testing facilities were transcribing every single data piece that was coming to them. They were writing it on paper, and then they were transcribing it into computer systems. And this just led to a tremendous amount of errors and redundancies and delays. And so another big piece of what we did is we collected all of those data points electronically and digitally, so that if you are wanting to watch the outcomes of your drug and you're sitting in Australia, you can literally log in and watch your drug and how it's performing from a safety standpoint all over, but then as well as with the heart. And so this just caught on in the market. And I think we saw the need then to bring this same level of automation and digital cardiac information to the marketplace outside of our clinic in West Bend. And that's when we
I was really hoping.
Yes.
So before I'm gonna stop you just for half a second.
Yeah, sure.
So two things. I want to make sure you all understand what Spaulding Medical does, and you're about to see it, but maybe in your words and then in my words, you could describe what Spaulding Medical does. In my words only because I speak normal people.
I speak nerd.
You speak, yeah.
So what Spaulding Medical does, our mission is to bring hospital quality cardiac care to be affordable and accessible to all God's children. So if you think about the infrastructure and all of the capital equipment that sits in hospitals to treat cardiac patients, we take all of that and we shrink it into something that's affordable and portable so that no matter where you are, or no matter what your economic condition is, you can have access to that infrastructure in the hospital.
Actually, I don't have much to add to that. Yeah, got it? So there's a famous story of your father kind of demonstrating the product in a restaurant, showing up wearing leads. Are you wearing leads right now? Is this going to happen?
No.
That's a little disappointing. All right, so I am so excited for you to actually show us this device.
Yes. So if you've ever been in a hospital or a clinic where they wheel in the cart, they hook you up with a bunch of stickers on your chest, and then there's this big piece of equipment that then prints out a long piece of paper. That's this. So this replaces that whole system. But the thing the way this works is it's battery operated, and it streams wirelessly to any smartphone or iPad or any platform of your choice. But then where it gets really interesting is that we digitally then connect that data with with that system's EMR, or in a nursing home's case, it might be with the treating physician, or wherever that data needs to go. And so what that does is it provides immediate information about the patient's cardiac state. Also, we use algorithms in the analysis portion. So you're streaming a live electrical view of the heart, but then as soon as you capture it, we actually run an algorithm against it so that the computer will tell you normal, abnormal. And if it's normal, 99.9% of the time, everything is normal. And this really helps people in situations, for example, elderly who might have chest pain, and it's actually indigestion or anxiety. And so we found that we've been able to avoid a lot of unnecessary hospitalizations by being able to provide that information right with the treatment team and then get that data wherever it needs to be digitally.
So that is extraordinary, but I don't know if you answered my question.
Oh, okay.
You went to Marquette, and when Spaulding Clinical, the parent company, was launched, you were barely out of Marquette. And you went and worked somewhere else before you came and worked for the family business. But last I checked, you are not a PhD. You do not personally hold a number of patents. You're not a software developer. You're not an industrial engineer. What gives you the audacity to run some, 10 years later, this innovative, groundbreaking medical device company in West Bend? Who told you that was okay?
I can't say that when I was in college or graduating from college that this was my dream, right? I didn't know that this is where my path would lead me. But what I do know is that I'm a woman of faith, and I kept showing up for what I believe was my calling and my passion. My background is in science. I'm a biomedical science major, and so my native tongue is actually my language, is the language of science. And to me, that means how can we, the way that I can lend my education and gifts is really in providing impact to people through healthcare issues. And so coming out of school, I knew I wanted to pursue something in healthcare, and I went into sales and really enjoyed, when I was in school, I worked a lot in labs, and both at MCW and at Marquette. And I loved the labs because I loved the data, but I felt like I needed to be more working with people. And so I tried sales for a little while, and I loved sales because I got that people aspect, but I also knew that I wanted to kind of bring some more of my science background into the mix. And when my dad came to us, my husband and I, in the 2006 timeframe, and had this idea to open up the business, at the time, I was pregnant with my second child, And I was like, oh, and I was working full time, and I was like, oh, that sounds like really great work-life balance. I can quit my stable job and open up a business that I have no idea about anything.
Okay, so,
so I mean,
on the characteristics list, reasonable.
So very naively just jumped and said, this sounds great. And we then proceeded to build it and build out the company. And initially my role was all business development focused, marketing focused. And we opened our doors September of 2008. And right around that time, the economy was, in great trouble. And
we remember.
Yes, it was a really hard time to be opening a business. And it was then that it was kind of a moment where we said, what we thought, this was when, we knew that customers, the market was starting to kind of freeze and lock up. So we knew there was going to be some delays in terms of how quickly we could get customers on board. So quickly I became both business development and business operations to manage, just the overall day-to-day operations and cash flow. And I went into a period of what I call my baptism by fire MBA, because it was literally day-to-day accounts receivable, accounts payable, HR, finance, IT, the manual side of building and growing a business for about 4 or 5 years, every day. And through that time, with the support of the team, we grew. I mean, we still grew. We grew every year. We almost doubled in sales, and we're continuing to grow. Does that help answer your question?
That gets me a little closer. You guys okay, satisfied? So you still, you had this this safe experience working in a family business, but you made the difficult decision to sort of, y'all did it again. You spun out a new company. So tell me, what have you done in this iteration of actually building a device and sort of reintroducing the business and the brand to the world that capitalized on what you learned the first time? How have you grown Spaulding Medical so quickly?
So around the time that we designed the device, we initially thought it made sense because we were offering a new product offering for our existing clients, our pharma clients. And then we quickly realized that we had a fully functioning medical device company underneath a clinical research firm. So even though our customers were very similar, there's different regulatory environment, different type of team aspects, and honestly, this is where Accelerator came into place. Right around this time is when I was in that class, and I remember being asked, to start coming up with a plan, and I realized, but we really have 2 different growth plans here, and working very closely with the instructors and professors to say, I don't know if I should be doing one plan for both, and it just started becoming clearer and clearer that we had 2 totally different businesses. Also around that time, we started hearing from our customers that they didn't want to just use the product for clinical research, they wanted to use it for their practice. It was giving them what they needed it was very helpful in terms of getting the data to participate in a clinical trial, but when it came time for them to send the device back to the pharmaceutical company, they said, can we buy that? They called us up, can we buy this? Can we keep it? And so now we have a product that's addressing an unmet need in the clinical research space, but also potentially the healthcare space. And so we started operating it as a separate business unit underneath the parent company, and that worked really well until the market started pulling even more, and we had even more demand for the product, particularly in the healthcare space. And then, it really evolved to this moment in time where one thing about the product that we knew wasn't working quite right was that we didn't want to be, like if we were going to run this separate operating business as a medical device, we didn't want to be a product company. We wanted to be products. We wanted to have multiple solutions. And we knew we also needed to provide a solution that could really play in the entire healthcare space. This product today plays very well in areas outside of the hospital. And it's beautiful in terms of bridging that gap. But where we really saw ourselves going was we need a solution, a product solution that's going to take us from the home all the way up to the hospital and still accomplish the mission that this whole product and business was founded off of. So through that whole process and really responding to what we heard and saw from the market, we just realized we needed to completely separate and focus on growing a medical, not just a medical device company. It's really evolved into a software and analytics company. And that is a very different animal than a clinical research firm in West Bend.
I got to tell you, I hope you all are hearing what I'm hearing. And that is, there's so much modesty and humility embedded into your language. So I hear that you are a talented listener. You know, you were paying attention to what your customers were saying, and that you made decisions to sort of build a strategy to support your customers' needs. So if I gave you an opportunity to not consider what anybody might think if you sounded overly pretentious or overly confident, what did you do?
I can say with confidence that my contribution has been focus, determination, and just sheer grit. And I think that when a leader takes that stance, the team follows, and it's contagious. And so, you know, I'll do any job. I'll do whatever it takes. This is where we're going, and we're going to make it happen. And I would say that level of determination and grit is probably what I can say has been my greatest contribution.
I think it's been that and so much more. You know, the mythology of these businesses, you know, from clinical to medical, is the Spaulding family name. But the history is, in fact, you were there from the very beginning. And so, not to in any way discredit the incredible efforts and genius of your father, but you were there, kind of, you know, adding. I'm going to make a sports analogy. You were being wide receiver to that. I'm just going to abandon that one. You were there, absolutely stewarding a lot of that growth, and then you've in so many ways replicated that with medical. I'm fascinated. You made some of my job easy. One of the things I know about you is that you are guided powerfully by your faith. And to the degree that you've embedded that into the public mission of Spaulding Medical, I'm curious, how do you allow it to play a role in the way that you interact with customers and the way that you make decisions about the strategy and growth of the company? Yeah,
I think, you know, so a little bit tactical, but when we
like tactical.
Okay. When we make decisions as a team, you know, medical device and software, when you look at risk, for example, it's some serious stuff. You know, I mean, you have to, when you're looking at, well, yes, it will cause this delay, and that's going to cost X, Y, and Z. But at the end of the day, this is what we need to do because this is what's right by people we love. You know, so we're guided by 4 core values: heroic ambitions, ingenious solutions, loving care, and self-awareness.
Okay, wait, say that again.
So heroic ambitions.
Heroic ambitions, okay.
Ingenious solutions, self-awareness, and loving care.
Do you all have 4 core values?
I do now.
Yeah.
I think those are awesome. Why did you pick self-awareness as well? That's not one that you would frequently hear in a business setting, but it seems so important.
So these core values came out of a retreat that Randy had been on. He had read the book on servant leadership. And when we look at these core values, actually self-awareness, the way we talk about it is that if we're all contributing the best that we have, that's fantastic. Let's align people's gifts and passions and strengths in the best possible way. But don't be afraid to say, I'm going to need support on that one. Or, we don't want people to think that we're expecting them to be everything. So part of it is just know yourself and know if there's something that you're not so good at that you need to round out with another team member or whatever it is. We really encourage that. And it's also a way to really foster growth. Because if you're consistently reviewing, kind of the things that you need to be working on, and that's a part of it is just having the awareness of what is it, what are my strengths and talents that I can bring, what are the things I need to sharpen, and I think that from a team standpoint, the self-awareness aspect has been great.
So it sounds like it would be awareness and an ability to be vulnerable as well.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
So
yes.
we have a question.
Actually, I have a question. I was watching part of the documentary about Elizabeth Holmes and the whole scandal of Walgreens and all of that with her technology. How do you translate the faith-based approach that you have to your business to make sure it stays ethical, that people are comfortable bringing anything to you that might be a red flag?
Absolutely. So that's where the loving care aspect comes in and is pervasive throughout everything we do. We're regulated by the FDA and a number of different regulatory bodies. And after reading and listening to a number of the things that happened at Theranos throughout the years, they were spending an enormous amount of energy getting around those rules. So it's very intentional that you're trying to avoid the system. It's just not in our DNA. Our core mission being what it is, the only path we see at getting there is through integrity and through loving not just our customers and our employees, but the people and the patients that we're going to serve. That's in our DNA. And we talk about that in our interviewing process and in our partner process, so that people are not surprised when they come on board that these are the standards by which we're holding ourselves.
So not surprising people, customers, employees, and all the rest is frankly, it's a common theme in conversations we have with growing companies. What other things do you do to assure that your customers, employees, and investors are not surprised? What are the expectations you set in your communications, in your everyday way of being?
Yes, so we very recently actually have worked really hard on putting together just an overall plan. And so the plan and the vision kind of go hand in hand. And so when we're setting expectations with customers or communicating with our investors, this cohesive plan is driving those elements. I've worked very closely with, I have to say, my coach who's here in the room, Darren Fisher from Sparity, who's really helped us evolve and make sure that there is a completely aligned plan that every single member of the team is aware of, and how it all feeds together. And I think this really helps scale, right? Because you can't possibly remember in your mind who's supposed to have what deliverable at what time to keep things moving forward. And so this has just been a really great tool then for leadership to be able to communicate what expected timelines might look like. I mean, if you have a annual plan, quarterly plan, you can speak intelligently and know kind of what maybe some of the risks might be to slowing that down or things like that.
So always happy to shout out Darren and his Insperity team because they are part of the Scale Up family, and they speak the language of growth, a language that clearly you speak well. Tell me, what are you doing to grow today?
So we have an incredible opportunity right now with a very, very well-known commercial partner. We've been working on it for over 18 months, and we're basically utilizing this partnership relationship. We had a hypothesis about what we thought our next product family should look like. This partner, who happens to be, in the top 20 healthcare systems in the nation, has validated that and has said, we agree with your hypothesis. Now let's go test it, let's go build it together. And in doing that, part of it is saying, okay, being very, very careful and almost obsessive about the pieces that are needed to put phase 1 together and put phase 2 together, and not think that you have to put it all together at once, but break it down into some manageable pieces and milestones. And we're very fortunate to have this partner to help us grow through that. And that is the genesis of our company's growth. The product we're building with them is not intended to be built for them. It's intended to be built for the marketplace. So this is an incredible opportunity for us to see boots on the ground, how this product solution is going to interact with somebody in a setting, in one section of the system to the entire opposite end of the system. And those workflow settings are really important to us because that's us knowing that we've developed something that's relevant and that's going to actually address and solve the problems and needs of our customers. So that's the whole foundation of our growth right now.
So, we've got a room full of folks that own, operate, invest in companies. You're going to leave today after talking to many of these folks because they're going to be excited to talk to you. And you're going to go to your office. What are you going to do? What is the thing you're doing today that contributes to that overarching growth plan? You didn't call it a growth plan, but that's how I heard it.
A lot of it is aligning the right partners, right? It's the support network that you need to grow. And so you don't know what you don't know. And we just very recently discovered a partner here in the area who's done something similar to this and can plug in and already has the team and the infrastructure built and can really help inject some expertise and some immediate support. And so I think having just knowing what those type of growth partners could be is incredible, and that's why it's exciting to connect and make those connections.
So again, there's almost a theme. Again, I'm hearing. It strikes me that one of your talents is recognizing and hearing growth opportunities, and just being available to them when they make themselves present. So you do come from a family that has proven itself very much entrepreneurial, and you have siblings who are also entrepreneurs. How is it discussed, at the dinner table when you were a kid? Because frankly, there wasn't business ownership or business creation until you were a little bit older. So how was it discussed when you were a kid, and how do you discuss it at your dinner table today with your 5 kids? Growing up, our dinner table was very much around. I mean, we were kind of
STEM family, so a lot of this science project or this technology, a lot of very science-focused, also arts-focused conversations, and it really wasn't even in our vision that this was going to be a dream that we were going to pursue. But I think that it was very clear at the time that we were called to do it, and the dinner table conversation started changing. And as there's a 22-year gap between myself and my youngest sibling. So even, two generations really of the family approaching this all together. And, but all for the reason of, hey, I want to help create a world of safer drugs. Can I help? So the family came together, and really everybody was immediately inspired by the vision and the mission. And that started really driving the family's involvement. And then now today, at our dinner table with my children, one of my kids, my kids are coming up with business ideas all the time, and I love it. And we'll talk about it, and we'll, and I'll challenge them and treat them like mini entrepreneurs and say, like, I actually came home one night and my daughters had a 20-page PowerPoint presentation.
Wow.
And it was on why they should be allowed to open up a bunny breeding business in our backyard. But I was...
Well, wait a second. The question that everybody wants to know the answer to.
Yeah.
Did it work?
So it was a little bit of a Shark Tank moment. And I was like,
okay.
You've thought through this. I like that. You've got this, you've got these details. I like that. I like this. But it's for this reason and this reason and this reason that I'm out. But I was so proud of them, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that part of the entrepreneurial journey is also just sharing and modeling. And so I was really proud that some of that modeling had somehow instilled an idea that if I'm going to make this go, I'm going to have to put together a really well laid out plan and be able to articulate all the benefits and things like that.
And did they demonstrate a behavior which you've modeled well, persistence? Yes. Have they followed up multiple times?
Yes. Yes. And
still no bunnies?
And it's still no bunnies.
That's fair. That is fair. Yeah. I think it's a good choice too. So I want to make sure that we hear audience questions if there are any. I've got a, yes sir.
Okay. You talked about one of your core values being loving care, okay, and your faith-based approach to business. Was that something that was instilled in you when you were very young as a child, or is that something that happened when you were older? And is that religious-based? Okay, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Yes, our faith, I was raised in a very faith-filled household. It was instilled from a very young age. And, always, it was present in everything we did. Not just from a routine standpoint, but it was really what we talked about and lived all the time. And definitely as we got older, we were allowed to explore and figure out for ourselves. We had to make that commitment and dedication on our own. We weren't, forced into anything, and that was great because I think it really helped us mature into that. So yes, it was absolutely, some of my greatest memories are around some really beautiful conversations about my faith with my family, particularly my father. And as we got older, it evolved, I think, for me, and how, with my family, we're still very much a faith-based family, and I still really enjoy that aspect of you know, sharing that with my children, and then the grandparents are sharing it with the grandchildren, and it's been there forever.
And how does that help you in terms of being a leader in your business and motivating your employees? How does that faith-based approach, that loving approach, how does that help you? Does it bring you closer to your employees? What does it do for you?
Absolutely. I mean, I think I like to try to see things as God would, right? You know, so when you look at people, people are not machines. People are not there to just turn out your widget. Like they're there with, you know, God-given talents and strengths. And so for me, it helps me, you know, really look at what is that God-given talent, strength, mission that each person is individually called to. And so I'd say that is very much there. And then also, it helps me sleep at night, right? Because as a leader, you can't possibly be everything. You can't be perfect. And if you know that you're a shepherd in God's plan, you know, so this mission that we're on, I really humbly believe that I'm an initial shepherd of, and it's been a calling, and I'm following it, and I'm honoring it. And I'm trusting, and I put a lot of faith that as we continue, you know, that I have the gifts and talents that I can lend right now to this phase for this project, and I can I feel like sometimes I can see a world where, you know, sudden cardiac death is almost eliminated because of this work, and that fills my heart.
I've been in that situation where there were actually paramedics thought I was having a cardiac arrest or a stroke, okay? And when I woke up, the paramedics were above me, and they started asking me about my right arm, if I had any numbness in my right arm, which is apparently an indication of a stroke or a heart attack. And, you know, that was a little bit of a defining moment in my life. And my question would be is, you know, could your device have been used in that situation, you know, maybe to monitor my heart and to provide that information to the hospital? I mean, is that how your device would have been used? Instead of, if I would have gone into a cardiac arrest, you know, normally they would have taken out, you know, that big machine with the pads, you know, and try to restart my heart. Okay, how would your device been used in that situation?
Yeah, so our idea, and there's versions of this that are in the market today, but is to miniaturize the product. Our product today could potentially, I don't know the details, but could potentially help in a preventative way for you. But the idea for us is that eventually there are algorithms that can predict if you're going to have a heart attack within 6 hours. They're out there. So say you have the data you need at the place where you're monitoring it, and the algorithm is able to alert you. You know, so this is our vision. This is our mission: is to be able to solve those problems. But the way we use this product today is really in an acute treatment triage situation. So the product would be applied. You would get your paramedics would get a printout, and then they would take that printout or write on their smartphone, and they would use that to make decisions about what to do.
So what I'm hearing is in so many ways, you're making what was 10, 15 years ago inconceivable, very much a possibility. That's fascinating. I want to make sure I acknowledge you, sir.
Amanda, talk a little bit about these three things. On the physician level, they care about their patients. Physicians also care about income. And they're generally resistant to change, so that's a barrier for you. Then from a hospital administrative point of view, the CEO is interested, like any other CEO, in revenue and profit. And so efficiency is not number one on their mind from a revenue point of view or a profit point of view in this country. And then the third thing is internationally, efficiency is more important because money is not as available. Talk about worldly, what you're trying to do internationally as well as domestically and the barriers you run into.
So I really like this question, and I'm going to restate it. What's that?
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I would like to restate it, and I would like you to answer it for yourself, but I want to restate it so that it can be heard in a way that's meaningful to folks that don't operate in the industry that you operate.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing is that there's some asymmetry or friction between what a global market might want versus what a more domestic market might want because of regulations, because really the way the customers interact with the users. And B, that your technology works in some ways against the interest of the entities that are paying for it. Yeah, in this case, the healthcare systems. So how do, I think a lot of folks in this room would be interested. How do you grow when in some ways you're selling something that works against the market forces of your customer?
So I'll take that one first. What we found in this particular partner case is that they were actually losing revenue opportunities because of inefficiencies, and they were also experiencing a lot of physician frustration, which is a big problem in healthcare systems. So you have lost revenue, you have physician frustration, and then you also have potentially missed opportunities or not as great of opportunity for treatment, optimal treatment decisions. And so those problems came to us from the healthcare system, and the lost revenue component was pretty substantial. And the reason they were losing this revenue was because they were missing, literally, if you've got hundreds of thousands of pieces of paper that you have to manage to get reimbursed from, and the paper doesn't get scanned and entered in, or it doesn't make its way from system A to system B, that's a revenue problem. So additionally, you look at the expense to a healthcare system on capital infrastructure, server infrastructure to support all of the big legacy pieces of equipment. And so, yes, there's a barrier in terms of they've invested in this equipment somewhat recently, so it doesn't happen overnight. But that capital infrastructure and the cost to the system to maintain it is extremely antiquated. So I think, our commercial partner they see it. They see the light. They understand that these costs are real and that they're significant, and that by improving upon that, you do solve a revenue and a cost problem. And then you also have a real physician frustration problem that is more qualitative but is real. So we, at one time, did see the market pressures. Our hypothesis, our vision was a little ahead of our time. And we kind of came to market guns a-blazing with that idea several years ago, and the conditions just weren't right yet. So now we are seeing, though, that definitely the conditions are absolutely right, and the customers lamenting those revenue and cost problems. And then remind me what the first one was.
So, yeah.
Okay. So internationally, the implications are incredible, because if you think of, there's parts of the world that are very developed, and then there's like the secondary and third world markets that are not developed, and they just don't, they're lucky if they get a old refurbished piece of equipment for making some of this diagnostic decisions off of. And I was very fortunate to travel down to some very poor areas of Mexico City and Brazil, seeing this product in action, and it absolutely brought me to tears, because it is, they're confined to these old pieces of equipment, and some of them they can't even get paper on. So oftentimes they don't even have the diagnostic equipment that they need. Seeing this equipment in work and physicians being able to use it to treat these people in a very affordable way, a US-based medical device and software company, that was a really amazing moment for me. And I think that will continue to have incredible implications in not just second world, but also third world. If you have a cellular signal, you can use our product, and pretty much everybody has cellular signals. So we're very, very much looking forward to, again, the mission of bringing it to be affordable and accessible to all, not the United States, all God's children.
So I want to wrap, but I want to tell you what I just heard.
Okay.
What I just heard was doing the best thing for people will ultimately serve you well in the market.
Mm-hmm,
and that,
absolutely.
What might feel or seem against your customers' financial interests ultimately will be in their best interest.
Yes.
All right, I think that's applicable to all. So last question. What should I have asked you that I didn't ask you?
I think maybe one thing we talked a lot about in Scalerator was financing and funding.
Yeah.
And so I would like to just take a moment to say that I think Milwaukee has evolved tremendously in the last 5 to 10 years in terms of organizing investment groups and just even organizing a way for people with ideas to get access to funding. But I'd also like to really recognize, but for the support of our early investors, we wouldn't be here. And we had, I think, a very unique opportunity in this community that we were very, very fortunate for many people in this community to come forward and say, I believe in it and I'm going to invest in it, before there was as much of a formality around it. So I would say that that's been a huge piece of our success and our growth. And their continued support. But I'd also say that, kudos to Milwaukee and for programs like Scalerator and some of the other programs that have come up that have really helped create the ecosystem around supporting startups and people who are also just looking to grow. So I think we've made some great progress.
Yeah. We need another hour that we won't take now. Please join me in thanking Amanda Baltz, CEO of Spaulding Medical, Scalerator alum, Marquette alum, mother of 5, wife, daughter, sister, all these other things. We look forward to seeing you at our next event. It's very important that you know 2 things. One, these applications for our flagship growth training program, now called the Scale Up Growth Accelerator, will be opening very shortly. So if you know someones who are interested in growing their business, they want to live a life like Amanda, having grown a great business, to become a master in the next couple of years, please direct them towards our application. The other thing we'll ask is please to fill out the evaluations and offer us some suggestions of who else you'd like to see sitting here. Until then, thank you again. We look forward to hearing your growth stories.
Thank you.